The space station floated in the darkness between three star systems. It was old. It was huge. And today, it was full of aliens from every corner of the galaxy. Yuna stood near the large window of the observation deck. Her silver skin glowed softly in the artificial light. Her eyes, bright like small moons, watched the crowd below. She was an ambassador from the Valari Dominion, one of the oldest civilizations in known space. Her people were beautiful and proud. They rarely showed emotion. They never showed weakness. But today, Yuna felt something strange in her chest. Something like curiosity mixed with excitement. The Galactic Council had called this gathering for one reason. Humanity wanted a seat among the stars. They wanted to be recognized as equals. And the Council, in its ancient wisdom, had decided there was only one way to test them: combat. Yuna had seen many species prove themselves through battle. The Grath, with their stone-like skin and fists that could break metal. The Khazari, thin and fast, with natural blades growing from their arms. The Malvik, who killed with poison and tricks. All of them had earned their place through blood and pain. Now it was humanity's turn. She had read the files on humans. They were soft. They had no claws, no armor, no venom. They lived short lives on a small blue planet far from the center of the galaxy. Most species considered them weak, unimportant. Some even laughed at the idea that humans thought they deserved a council seat. Yuna did not laugh. She had learned long ago that files and reports never told the whole story. The arena below was circular and large. The floor was made of hard metal. The walls were high, with energy barriers to protect the watching crowd. Thousands of aliens filled the seats, all waiting to see what humanity would offer. A door opened on one side of the arena. Yuna leaned forward slightly. A single human walked out. He was not tall by galactic standards. Maybe 6 feet. His body was lean but solid, like a machine built for efficiency rather than show. He wore simple clothes, dark military pants, and a gray shirt. No armor, no helmet, no visible weapons. His hair was black and cut short. His skin was a warm brown. His face was calm, almost relaxed, like he was walking into a dining hall rather than a fighting pit. His name appeared on the display screen above the arena. Daniel Park, age 32, former soldier, current representative of Earth. The crowd murmured. Some laughed. A Grath delegate near Yuna made a sound of disgust. "This is their champion?" said Delegate Vorn, a Malvik who stood beside her. His voice was like dry leaves scraping together. "One soft human with no weapons? They insult us." Yuna said nothing. She was watching Daniel's eyes. There was something there. Something the others were missing. His eyes were brown and warm, but deep inside them was something cold. Something patient. It reminded her of deep water, calm on the surface, but hiding sharp rocks below. The door on the opposite side of the arena opened. The crowd went silent. A Thornax stepped out. Yuna had seen Thornax before, but they never failed to impress. 8 feet tall, 400 pounds of muscle. Its body was covered in natural bone plates, thick and hard as starship armor. Its hands ended in claws that could tear through steel. Its face was flat and brutal, with small eyes full of animal rage. The Thornax roared. The sound shook the arena walls. Several delegates in the front rows stepped back from the barrier. Daniel Park did not move. He stood in the center of the arena, hands at his sides, watching the beast with the same calm expression. He did not take a fighting stance. He did not reach for a hidden weapon. He just waited. The council arbiter, a tall being made of living crystal, raised one hand. The trial begins. Combat ends when one fire cannot continue. Begin. The Thornax charged. It moved fast for something so large, Its feet thundered against the metal floor. Its claws caught the light as it raised them high, ready to split the human in half with a single blow. Yuna's heart jumped. She did not understand why. Daniel stood perfectly still. The Thornax closed the distance. 20 feet. 10 feet. 5 feet. At the last possible moment, Daniel moved. It was not a desperate dodge. It was smooth, almost lazy. He stepped to the side like he was avoiding a slow-moving door. His hand shot out as the Thornax passed, fingers finding a gap in the bone plates at the creature's neck. He pressed. Hard. The Thornax stumbled. Its charge turned into a clumsy fall. It caught itself, confused, and turned around with another roar. The crowd went quiet. Daniel had not moved from his new position. He stood with his hands at his sides again, waiting, patient. His expression had not changed at all. Yuna realized she was gripping the railing in front of her. Her knuckles had gone white. What was that? Vorn whispered. What did he do? Yuna did not answer. She did not know. But she could not look away. The Thornax charged again, faster this time, angrier. It swung its massive claws in wide arcs, trying to catch the human no matter which way he dodged. Daniel dropped low. He rolled under the sweeping arms, moving between the creature's legs. As he passed, his elbow drove into the back of the Thornax's knee. The beast's leg buckled. It fell to one knee with a crash that shook the floor. Daniel was already standing behind it. The crowd began to whisper. The whispers grew louder. Something was happening that none of them had expected. A single human, with no weapons and no armor, was winning. Yuna felt her breath catch in her throat. She watched Daniel move, watched him think, watched him turn a monster's strength into weakness. He was not fighting with power. He was fighting with something else. Something harder to name. Intelligence. Patience. Will. The Thornax pushed itself up and spun around, rage burning in its small eyes. It roared again, louder than before, and attacked with everything it had. And Daniel Park, alone in the arena, waited for it to come. Yuna whispered something in her native language. It was soft, barely a breath, meant for no one but herself. But if someone had translated it, they would have heard something strange. Something that would change everything. What are you? She whispered. What are you made of? She did not know the answer yet, but she knew, with sudden certainty, that she needed to find out. The Thornax came at Daniel like a storm made of muscle and bone. Its claws cut through the air so fast they made a whistling sound. Its roars filled the arena and echoed off the metal walls. Every attack was meant to kill. Every strike was meant to end the fight in blood and broken bones. Daniel moved like water around. Rocks. He ducked under a claw that would have taken his head off. He stepped back from a strike that scratched the floor where he had been standing. He twisted sideways to avoid a grab that could have crushed his ribs like thin sticks. He never looked scared. He never looked tired. He just kept moving, kept watching, kept waiting. Yuna could not take her eyes off him. Around her, the other delegates were leaning forward in their seats. The laughter had stopped. The jokes had ended. Everyone was watching now, really watching, trying to understand what they were seeing. A human, soft and small by galactic standards, was making a Thornax look foolish. He cannot win, Vorn said beside her. His voice was less certain than before. He's only delaying. Eventually, the beast will catch him. Will it? Yuna asked softly that the Thornax swung both claws down in a hammer blow. Daniel rolled to the side. As he came up, his fist struck the inside of the creature's elbow, right where the bone plates did not cover. The Thornax howled in pain. Its arm dropped, temporarily useless. Daniel was already moving. He jumped onto the creature's bent knee, then onto its shoulder. Before the Thornax could react, Daniel had wrapped one arm around its thick neck and locked his legs around its torso. The beast went crazy. It thrashed and spun. It slammed its back against the arena wall, trying to crush the human between its body and the hard metal. The impact was loud enough to make several delegates gasp. Daniel held on. Yuna watched the human's face. His eyes were closed. His jaw was tight. She could see the muscles in his arms straining as he squeezed tighter and tighter around the Thornax's throat. The creature threw itself to the ground and rolled. Daniel disappeared under 400 pounds of alien muscle. The crowd went silent. Yuna felt her heart stop. For one terrible moment, she was certain the human was dead. Crushed. Ended. Just like everyone had expected from the beginning. Then the Thornax stood up. And Daniel was still there. Still holding on. Still squeezing. The crowd erupted in noise. Shouts and gasps and sounds of disbelief in 100 different languages. Yuna heard none of it. All she could hear was her own heart pounding in her ears. The Thornax stumbled across the arena. Its movements were slower now. Its roars had become weak sounds, like an animal trying to breathe through a closing throat. Daniel's face was calm, patient. He was not trying to hurt the creature. He was simply waiting for it to run out of air. 1 minute passed. Then 2. The Thornax fell to its knees. Its claws scraped weakly at Daniel's arm, but could not find a grip. Its eyes were starting to close. 3 minutes. The beast fell forward and hit the ground with a crash that shook the entire arena. It did not move again. Daniel released his hold and stood up. The arena was completely silent. 1,000 aliens stared at the human standing over the fallen Thornax. None of them could believe what they had just seen. Daniel was breathing a little harder now, but his face was still calm. He looked at the fallen creature for a moment, almost like he was making sure it was truly done. Then he turned and looked up at the observation deck. His eyes found Yuna. She did not know how. There were hundreds of delegates on the deck, all wearing the colors and symbols of their worlds. But somehow, Daniel Park looked directly at her, like he had known exactly where she was standing the whole time. Their eyes met. Yuna felt something move in her chest. Something warm and unfamiliar. It was not just attraction, though that was part of it. It was something deeper. Something that spoke to the oldest parts of her Volari soul. Here was strength. Here was will. Here was something worth having. The Council Arbiter raised its crystal hand. The trial is complete. The human is victorious. Humanity has proven itself worthy of consideration. The crowd finally reacted. Some cheered. Some argued. Some sat in stunned silence. The political consequences of this moment would take years to fully unfold. Yuna did not care about any of it. She was still looking at Daniel. He had turned away now, walking toward the arena exit with the same calm walk he had used to enter. He moved like a man who had done nothing special. Like defeating a Thornax with his bare hands was just another day. Impressive, Vorn admitted beside her. For a human, but one battle does not make a species worthy of the council. Yuna finally looked away from the arena. No, she agreed, but it makes them worthy of attention. She straightened her ambassador's robes and started walking toward the stairs that led down from the observation deck. Where are you going? Vorn called after her. Yuna did not answer. She did not fully know the answer herself. All she knew was that she needed to find the human. She needed to speak with him. She needed to understand how a creature with no claws and no armor and no special powers could walk into an arena alone and walk out victorious. She needed to understand what humans were made of, and somewhere deep inside her, in a place she barely recognized, a voice was whispering something she had never thought before. Something that would have shocked her entire civilization if they knew. The voice said, I want him. I want him to be mine. Yuna pushed the thought aside. She was an ambassador, a diplomat, a representative of one of the oldest and proudest species in the galaxy. But the thought did not go away. It stayed with her, warm and persistent, as she made her way down to find Daniel Park. It stayed with her for a very long time. Yuna found Daniel in the lower observation deck, 3 hours after the battle. This part of the station was quiet. Most delegates preferred the upper levels, where the views were better and the company was more important. Down here, there was only the darkness of space and the slow wheel of distant stars. Daniel stood alone by the large window. His military clothes had been replaced with simple civilian wear, dark pants and a gray jacket. His hands were clasped behind his back. He was watching the stars like they were old friends he had not seen in a long time. Yuna stopped at the entrance of the deck. She had spent 3 hours preparing what she would say. She had practiced in front of her mirror. She had written notes and thrown them away. She was a trained diplomat who had negotiated treaties between warring empires. But now, looking at the back of this human's head, all her preparation felt useless. She took a breath and walked forward. Her steps were soft, but she knew he would hear them. A man who could fight like he fought would have sharp senses. "You fought well today," she said when she was close enough. Her voice came out steadier than she expected. Daniel did not turn around immediately. He continued looking at the stars for a moment longer, like he was finishing a thought. Then he glanced over his shoulder. "Thanks," he said simply. That was all. Just one word. No pride in his voice. No excitement. Like Yuna had told him the weather was nice, she moved to stand beside him at the window. Up close, she could see small cuts on his knuckles and a bruise forming on his forearm. The Thornax had left its marks, even if it had not won. Most warriors would celebrate such a victory, Yuna said. "There are parties happening on the upper decks in your honor." "I know." Daniel shrugged. "Not really my thing." "What is your thing, Daniel Park?" He finally turned to look at her fully. His brown eyes studied her face with an intensity that made Yuna feel exposed, like he could see things she usually kept hidden. "Quiet," he said. "Stars. Being alone with my thoughts. Then I'm interrupting." "I didn't say that." They stood in silence for a moment. Outside the window, a cargo ship passed slowly, its lights blinking against the darkness. "You show no fear," Yuna said. "Even now, speaking with me. Most species find the Valari intimidating. Should I be scared of you?" It was an honest question. Yuna considered it. "The Valari have ended civilizations that displeased us," she said. "We are older than most species in the galaxy. Our technology is beyond what many can understand. So yes, most beings are afraid of us." Daniel nodded slowly. "That's what you can do. It's not who you are." Yuna blinked. "I do not understand. Fear should be based on who someone is, not what their people did centuries ago." Daniel turned back to the window. "You came down here alone to talk to me. You're standing close enough that I could touch you. That tells me you're curious, not dangerous. At least not to me." Yuna felt warmth spread across her silver cheeks. The Valari did not blush like humans, but they glowed slightly brighter when embarrassed. She hoped Daniel did not know this. "You read people well," she said. "Keeps me alive." Daniel paused. "I read your file before the demonstration. Ambassador Yuna of the Valari Dominion. Youngest ambassador in your people's history. Known for being fair and honest, even when it cost you politically. You researched me?" "I research everyone. But I paid extra attention to you. Why?" Daniel smiled slightly. It was the first time she had seen him smile. It changed his face, made it warmer, more human. "Because you were the only delegate who did not look away during my fight," he said. "Everyone else flinched or turned their heads when the Thornax attacked. Not you. You watched everything. Yuna did not know what to say. She had not realized anyone had been watching her while she was watching him. "What did you think?" Daniel asked. "When you watched me fight." The question hung in the air between them. Yuna could lie. She could give a diplomatic answer about respecting human capability. She could change the subject entirely. But something about Daniel made her want to be honest. "I thought you were remarkable," she said quietly. "I thought I had never seen anything like you. I thought—" She stopped. "What?" Yuna met his eyes. "I thought I wanted to know you. Really know you. Not as an ambassador meeting a representative, but as a person meeting another person." Daniel was silent for a long moment. His expression did not change, but something shifted in his eyes. Something like interest. Something like possibility. "The Valari don't usually bond with other species," he said. "I read that too. No, we do not. So this is unusual for you." "Very. But you're still here." "Yes." Yuna held his gaze. "I am still here." Daniel extended his hand. It was a human gesture. She knew. A greeting. An offer of connection. "I'm Daniel," he said. "But you already know that." Yuna took his hand. His grip was warm and strong, his palm rough from years of training and fighting. The touch sent something like electricity through her fingers. "I am Yuna," she replied. "But you already know that too." Daniel's smile grew slightly wider. "Then maybe we should learn the things we don't know yet." He did not let go of her hand. Yuna did not pull away. Outside the window, the stars continued their slow, eternal dance. And two beings from different worlds stood together in the darkness, beginning something neither of them fully understood, but both of them wanted to find out. 3 months passed on the station. 3 months of stolen moments and quiet conversations. 3 months of learning and growing and falling into something neither of them had expected. Yuna found reasons to stay. There were trade negotiations that required her attention, cultural exchange programs that needed supervision, diplomatic functions that demanded a Valari presence. Every excuse was true. Every excuse was also just an excuse. The real reason she stayed was Daniel. They met whenever they could. Sometimes in the lower observation deck where they had first talked. Sometimes in the station's gardens where plants from 100 worlds grew under artificial suns. Sometimes in small restaurants that served food from Earth, where Daniel would teach her about human cuisine and laugh at the faces she made when something was too spicy. He laughed more now. Yuna had learned that his calm was not coldness. It was just how he protected himself. Underneath it, he was warm and funny and full of stories about his life on Earth. She told him about the Valari homeworld, about the crystal cities that sang when the wind blew through them, about the pressure of being the youngest ambassador in her people's history, about how lonely it was to always be perfect. "You don't have to be perfect with me," Daniel had said one evening. Yuna had believed him. That was the most dangerous thing of all. Now, 3 months later, she sat in her quarters and stared at a message on her screen. It was from the Valari Council. They had heard rumors about her spending time with the human. They were not pleased. She knew what the message really meant. "Come home. End this. Remember who you are." A knock at her door interrupted her thoughts. Ambassador Yuna. It was one of the station's security officers, a 4-armed Kelax with worried eyes. "There is an emergency. The station is under attack." Yuna stood quickly. "What? By whom?" "The Craft Syndicate. They have breached the lower levels and are taking hostages." The Craft. Yuna felt cold fear spread through her chest. The Craft were slavers and pirates, the worst of what the galaxy had to offer. They killed without mercy and sold whoever they did not kill. "Daniel," she said without thinking. "Where is Daniel Park?" The security officer looked confused. "The human?" "I do not know. We are trying to evacuate all diplomatic personnel to the safe zones. Yuna grabbed her communication device and tried to call Daniel. No answer. She tried again. Still nothing. The station shook. Somewhere in the distance, she heard an explosion. Ambassador, we must go, the security officer said urgently. Yuna followed him into the corridor. All around her, aliens of every species were running and shouting. Some were crying. Some were frozen in terror. The lights flickered as another explosion rocked the station. They never made it to the safe zone. The Krath found them 2 corridors away. 5 of them, wearing black armor and carrying weapons that glowed with cruel light. Their leader was a scarred brute named Holt. Yuna recognized him from intelligence briefings. He was wanted for crimes on 20 different worlds. Well, Holt said, his voice like metal scraping metal. A Valari ambassador. You will bring a good price. The security officer tried to fight. Holt killed him without even looking. A casual shot that dropped the Kallax to the floor. Yuna did not scream. She did not beg. She stood straight and kept her face calm, even as the Krath surrounded her and dragged her away. They took her to a cargo hold deep in the station. 20 other hostages were already there. Diplomats and merchants and travelers, all sitting on the cold floor with fear in their eyes. Hours passed. The Krath walked among them, making threats and laughing at their terror. Holt talked loudly about how much money they would make from selling such important people. Yuna said nothing. She sat against the wall and thought about Daniel. Was he safe? Was he even alive? The not knowing was worse than anything the Krath could do to her. The lights went out. Complete darkness fell over the cargo hold. The hostages screamed. The Krath shouted and raised their weapons, pointing them at shadows. And the sounds began. A heavy thud, like a body hitting the floor. A crack, like bones breaking. A gurgled scream that cut off suddenly. The emergency lights flickered on. Daniel Park stood in the doorway. His clothes were torn. Blood covered his face and hands, but none of it was his own. Around him lay Krath soldiers, all unconscious or dead. He was breathing hard, and his eyes were wild with something that looked like rage. But when he saw Yuna, his expression changed. The wildness faded. Worry took its place. Yuna. He crossed the room in quick steps, ignoring the staring hostages. His hands were gentle as he touched her face, checking for injuries. Are you hurt? You came for me, she whispered. Of course I came for you. Alone? Against the entire Krath force? There were more outside? Daniel's jaw tightened. There aren't any more. Yuna stared at him. This man, this human, had torn through a small army just to reach her. He had risked everything, fought everyone, because she had been taken. Why? She asked. Her voice cracked. Why would you do this? Daniel cupped her face in his bloody hands. His brown eyes met her silver ones. Because you're mine, he said, and I protect what's mine. Tears formed in Yuna's eyes. Real tears. The Valari almost never cried. But in that moment, in that cargo hold, surrounded by unconscious enemies and stunned hostages, Yuna felt something break open inside her. I thought I might never see you again, she said. I will always find you. Daniel pressed his forehead against hers. Always, no matter what. No matter who tries to stop me. Behind them, the other hostages began to stand. Security teams were arriving finally to clean up the mess Daniel had made. Questions would be asked. Reports would be filed. The political consequences would be complicated. Why UNA did not care about any of it. She only cared about the human holding her face like she was the most precious thing in the universe. She only cared about Daniel. The station slowly returned to normal. The Krath who survived were taken away in chains. The dead were honored. The living were treated for their wounds and their fears. Reports were written and meetings were held, and slowly, carefully, the galaxy continued to turn. Daniel was called a hero. News of what he had done spread across the station, then across the sector, then across the entire galactic network. A single human had defeated an entire Krath raiding party. A single human had saved 24 hostages, including a Valari ambassador. Offers poured in from every corner of known space. Military positions, security contracts, fame and fortune beyond what most beings could imagine. Daniel refused them all. I didn't do it for any of that, he told the reporters who tried to interview him. I did it because it needed to be done. He never mentioned Yuna. He never said her name. He protected her privacy, even while the whole galaxy was watching him. That made her love him more. 1 week after the attack, Yuna found Daniel in their usual spot. The lower observation deck. The quiet darkness. The slow wheel of the stars. She stood beside him at the window. Neither of them spoke for a long moment. They had learned how to be comfortable in silence together. Finally, Yuna broke the quiet. The Valari Council has summoned me home. Daniel nodded slowly. I figured they would. They know about us. Someone talked. Maybe one of the hostages. Maybe a station employee. Yuna sighed. It does not matter how they found out. They know. What do they want? They want me to return immediately. And whatever this is between us, marry someone appropriate. Someone Valari. Her voice was bitter. They have already chosen candidates. Daniel was quiet for a moment. Then he asked the question that mattered. What do you want, Yuna? She turned to face him. The artificial light of the station caught her silver skin and made it glow. I watched you fight a monster alone, she said. A creature 3 times your size, with armor and claws and everything that should have made it unstoppable. And you won. Not because you were stronger. Because you were smarter. Because you refused to give up. Because something inside you would not let you fail. Daniel listened without interrupting. And then I watched you fight an army, Yuna continued. Alone, again, because they took me. Because they threatened something you cared about. Her voice grew softer. You tore through them like they were nothing. And when you found me, when you held my face in your hands, I knew. Knew what? That I was yours. And you were mine. The words hung in the air between them. Heavy, important. True. Daniel reached out and took her hand. The Valari won't accept this. Your people don't bond with outsiders. I know. They might exile you. Strip your title. Cut you off from your family. I know. Your whole life would change. Yuna squeezed his hand. My life already changed. The moment I saw you walk into that arena. The moment I watched you stand alone against something terrible and refuse to be afraid. She stepped closer to him. I whispered that I wanted you to be mine, and now you are. Nothing the council says can change that. Daniel studied her face. His brown eyes were warm but serious. You're sure? Because once we do this, there's no going back. I am sure. Yuna lifted her other hand and placed it on his chest, over his heart. The question is, are you? Daniel smiled. It was a real smile, full and warm, the kind he only showed when they were alone together. I've spent my whole life fighting, he said. For Earth, for humanity, for causes I believed in. But I never had something worth fighting for personally. Something that was just mine. He covered her hand with his own. Until you. Then we fight together, Yuna said. Whatever comes. The council, your family. The whole Valari Dominion, if we have to. Yes, you know I'm just one human, right? Against one of the oldest civilizations in the galaxy? Yuna laughed. It sounded like bells chiming. You were just one human against the Thornax too. And against the Krath. I have learned not to count against you, Daniel Park. He pulled her closer. Their foreheads touched. Their breath mixed in the small space between them. I love you, he said. I don't know if humans and Valari are supposed to say that. I don't care. It's true. Valari do not speak of love easily, Una replied. We believe it weakens us. But I think they are wrong. She looked into his eyes. I love you, Daniel. I love your strength and your patience and your courage. I love that you came for me when I needed you. I love that you see me, really see me, not as an ambassador or a Valari, but as Una. Just Una. Just Una. They kissed then, in the lower observation deck with the stars as their witnesses. It was not a human kiss or a Valari kiss. It was something new. Something that belonged only to them. When they finally pulled apart, Daniel was smiling again. So what now? He asked. Now we send a message to the Valari Council, Una said. We tell them I have made my choice. We tell them I have chosen a human. They won't like it. No. Una smiled too. But they will have to accept it. Eventually. And if they don't? Then they will learn what happens when you threaten something I care about. Her silver eyes glowed brighter. I learned from the best, after all. Daniel laughed. A real laugh, loud and happy, the sound of a man who had finally found what he was looking for. I think I'm a bad influence on you, Ambassador. The worst, Una agreed. And I would not have it any other way. They stood together at the window, hand in hand, watching the stars. Behind them, the galaxy continued to spin. Ahead of them, challenges and struggles and battles, yet to fight, but they would face them together, because she had watched him battle alone and whispered that she wanted him to be hers. And now, at last, he was. Forever.